Welcome to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we talk about the top 15 tight end rankings for week 11. You ready? Those Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom. Rolling on the field.
Those Fantasy Goodfellas. All right, before we get started, let me remind you a couple things about this video. These are not our rankings. We're reacting to rankings from different sports writers and a consensus of their predictions. We're going to show you some stats and some trends that will help you with your lineups. All right, so before we get started, let me remind you, the teams on buys this week are the Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, New England Patriots, and the New Orleans Saints. All right, let's get started. At number one, who else? Travis Kelce versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this will be an interesting matchup. Like I said in the quarterback rankings, the Kansas City Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce going against the Philadelphia Eagles, which are a good defense. And in week 9, Kelce didn't have to do anything. He didn't do anything. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this week. At number 2, Mark Andrews versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think, again, Mark Andrews has been your number one tight end. Probably was between Kelce and Andrews was the top tight ends picked in the draft. Now, with the touchdowns, you got 6 TDs for Mark Andrews on the season. And I think you're going to need him to step up to near the end of the season here for fantasy football. Number 3, George Kittle versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kittle was the second-ranked tight end in Week 10. He did that with 116 receiving yards and a receiving TD. He had that long catch in that game. So that is that. At number 4, TJ Hawkinson at the Denver Broncos. Now, this will be an interesting matchup again because Hawkinson was your number one tight end in Week 10. Dobbs is brand new to this team and succeeding. It's surprising, and the Denver Broncos defense is stepping up. So I doubt that Hawkinson will actually do so well. I don't see him being in the top 4. Number 5, Dalton Schultz versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Schultz had 71 receiving yards, which was good for 8th. And you got C.J. Stroud lighting it up. So I think that can continue. So that's just an overall good offense led by a rookie. Number 6, Sam Laporta versus the Chicago Bears. Now, Sam has been playing good all season, but he only had 40 receiving yards in Week 10. The week before that was on bye, and the week before that was 57 receiving yards and a touchdown. So, tight ends, it's all about the touchdown. So you're picking who can get into the end zone. Number 7, Dalton Kincaid versus the New York Jets. I just think that offense is questionable, but in Week 10, Kincaid got in with 51 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. I think that can continue. At number 8, you got Evan Ingram versus the Tennessee Titans. Now, Evan Ingram, you want to see where he's at, right? So he's been in the top 15 most of the weeks except in Week 5 and in Week 10. So it's not unlikely that he's going to be in the top 15. At number 9, Trey McBride at the Houston Texans. McBride played good in Week 10. He had 131 receiving yards. Can that continue with Kyler Murray coming back? But he was the third-ranked tight end in Week 10. At number 10, Cole Kmet at the Detroit Lions. He had 45 receiving yards, and he was the 12th ranked tight end. On the season, he's over that. So that means he's pretty much ranked every week. Not a shocker. At number 11, Jake Ferguson at the Carolina Panthers. Now, Ferguson got into the end zone, and that was good for the 5th best tight end because he only had 26 receiving yards. And that's what it takes, right? Get into the end zone and you'll do well. Number 12, you got David Njoku versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had 58 receiving yards in the top 15. I like to say 16 because you got a 16-team league and a starter. At number 13, you got Logan Thomas versus the New York Giants. Thomas had 40 receiving yards, but he was 5 for 5 on receptions versus targets. I think he's done that before, but here he's over about 40 yards every week. In TDs, he is almost every 2 games, which would be this week he's going to score. Number 14, you got Pat Freiermuth at the Cleveland Browns. You got a good defense in Cleveland, and Freiermuth doesn't seem to have played a lot, so maybe he's coming back. I think it's a stretch to see him in the top 15 as he's coming back. At number 15, Cade Otton at the San Francisco 49ers. He had 10 receiving yards. That was good for 34. Now, before we get going here, I like to show you some of the best stats for tight ends in Week 10. So we do that to see how they actually played out, and I'm going to show you that right now before we get going. So if you're looking for some matchups, if you're looking for some trends, what I like to point out is this is what it looks like here, right? You got Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson, 4-5. Brock Wright got into the top 6. Michael Mayer's picking up. Luke Musgrave is back, right? He's some big expectations. Then you got some people like Tanner Hudson, Connor Hayward. Those are names that we haven't mentioned all season. Will Disley, Mike Gesicki, and a couple of these bottom feeders here, 27. You got Trumbull, Weil, Trotman, and Hurst to kind of round that out. So if you're looking for somebody, if you got a player on buy and you're looking for somebody else to start, those are some names that you might pop up that might still be on the waiver wire. All right, tight ends are always my favorite because it just takes who's hot and who gets into the end zone to help you win you some games. All right, that's going to do it for the top 15 tight end rankings for Week 10. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, good luck. The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom. Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.